So without much further ado, I'd like to invite Professor Kibwana.
Thank you very much, Muratha and Jamie, all colleagues who are on this conversation. I'm very happy to have been invited to participate. I think discussing about devolution, and particularly from the point of view of public participation, is a very important thing in Africa, not let alone Kenya, because although at independence we tried to make devolution or decentralization work, we didn't have the kind of success that was envisaged. In actual fact, the 1963 constitution in Kenya had a very robust devolution system, what we call Majimbo, and this was basically regional based. But it took about a year, 2 years for those at the center to torpedo it, because they believed that resources shouldn't really go to the periphery. It was good to centralize our system of leadership. And so the first devolution was destroyed. And we had to struggle and wait, as has been noted by Morava, until the 2010 constitution, when the citizens said that they are not happy with the system of this decentralization, of centralization, and that they want the so-called periphery to be part of the country. In actual fact, there were some areas in Kenya, especially northeastern Kenya, where the people would say, when you go to Kenya, greet the Kenyans, because they felt very marginalized. They were not really part of the country. So when one talks about decentralization and localization, its core mandate, of course, is to empower people, the empowerment of people through a robust local public sector. And this is something that Jamie in the introductory remarks did say. And so when the 2010 constitution comes on board, it is extremely challenging, because it is changing entirely the way in which our governance has been conducted. And this means that for most people in the public sector, there will be a lot of unlearning of what they were used to in terms of very central systems. And a lot of also learning for the communities themselves, because although they agitated for devolution, but being a new thing, they had also to learn as communities how to operationalize it. And this is why civic education becomes very, very important. And I remember when we came into Makueni government, the MCAs who had been councillors in the previous system resisted civic education, because they said, why do you want to waste money, educating people? Why don't you build roads and build, hospitals and stuff like that? Because they actually knew that a citizenry which has knowledge is a danger to them, because they want to perpetuate the earlier system of centralization, corruption, and so on. So for us, localization of development meant political decentralization, administrative decentralization, physical decentralization, and structured public participation. And because I was part of making the constitution as a collaborator within civil society, I knew these ideas in the constitution, and particularly devolution and public participation. And for me and my colleagues in the county government and people who worked with in civil society, public participation is a structured way of consulting with persons, groups, entities before decisions are made. It gives voice especially to the voiceless, like children, youth, women, persons with disability, and other marginalized people, including everybody. You don't exclude even those who already have voice. And it cements the concept of agency of county government, national government, and other organizations, because it assumes that you as a leader, as somebody in government, you don't convey decisions that you have already made, but it's up to you to help the community, help the county, whatever entity, to generate and confirm the decisions, because it is assumed that the citizens or the community, they have ideas and they have been discussing among themselves. They are the most affected by development or lack thereof. And even within public participation, it's not just a communication between citizens and the leaders, but also the citizens themselves. Because in public participation, the people hold themselves accountable. If they are sharing resources, they ask each other to be fair, to be just. So that is why, in my view, public participation is very potent. And in Makueni, we say that as government officials, when you go to the citizens, you are an agent and you go to take instructions and direction from the people who hold you accountable. And so public participation becomes a very driving transformational tool for purposes of devolution. And we have emphasized that public participation is a human right, so that citizens, just like any other, right in the Bill of Rights, public participation is one of them. And when one looks at the Kenyan Constitution, and I think this will also be described in more detail, Article 1 says sovereign power belongs to the people. Article 10(2)(a) and the 4th schedule of the Constitution in Part 2, Clause 14, they emphasize that public participation is a function of the county government. And within the County Governments Act itself, Section 87 to 92 and 115, again, it emphasizes, and Article 174 of the Constitution, the power of self-government by the people, so that they can make decisions, they can manage their own affairs. And this has also a basis in our cultural systems, because mostly people would sit under a tree, they would debate until some consensus was achieved. So there is a sense in which it's not a very new thing as such, although during the one-party era and during a lot of how our governments are running things, it is something that is de-emphasized. And very quickly, there are many purposes of public participation. Like, of course, one can say you are doing it to fulfill legal requirements, and that is necessary, but that is not the core aspect of it as such. Another purpose is embodying the ideals of democratic participation and inclusion, advancing social justice, making sure there's community-led development, informing the public, enhancing understanding of public problems, and exploring and generating potential solutions that are owned by the people, and hence ensuring that there is sustainability, and of course, producing policies, laws, plans, projects, and so on. Now, something that Muratha remarked, that we were born within crisis, because during the first government, the MCAs, members of County Assembly, demanded 1 billion shillings, and 100 shillings is $1, approximately, slightly higher. And the rest of the 1 million people are going to have 4 billion, so that 1 billion to 100 people, and 4 billions to about 1 million people. And so as a governor, I said, we cannot have come from Nairobi, because I used to work as an advisor to the president then. We cannot come from Nairobi. This money is recently arrived at the county, and then we just take all of it. And the people said in the systems that they worked, these leaders, the councillors, who are now MCAs, they said that is how they used to run government. And so just like people in Nairobi are eating, it is our time, it is our turn to eat. And so I said, I'd better, go back to Nairobi, be a teacher, a professor. I will not accept this. And I thought they were not serious. And actually, they decided impeaching me. There was a standoff so that they would not pass budgets. They would hardly approve anything. I remember one budget was passed 3 months to the end of the financial year. And so basically you couldn't do much. And the people got angry, and they began to say that since in the constitution there's provision to disband you as a government because you are dysfunctional, we are going to do that. And they actually collected signatures. They took them to the office of the president. The president didn't want to consider it, but he was prevailed by the Council of Governors then to at least institute a commission of inquiry. And that commission saw that the government was not working, so they recommended that it should be dissolved. By this time, the MCAs had realized that the people had more power than ourselves, and they made some concessions. And the president said, since this is the first episode of this nature, it will derail devolution if I disband the county leadership, and therefore we will find other ways of dealing with the problem. And so because he has constitutional powers in the constitution, he has constitutional powers within our legal system. The president said that he will not dissolve. Now after that, we actually now and actually before even coming to some of the last points, there was a time that when they were impeaching me at the county assembly, I went there with some friends, and actually they shot at us and almost, killed us because several people were wounded. So that made me understand that when you decentralize for real, when you have devolution for real, you threaten interests that were enjoying decentralization and were enjoying corruption. And so we decided to form, so to speak, a parallel government. So that there's a national government, there's the county government, and there's now our people's government, where there's a forum from the village. We have about over 3,600 villages. So there's the forum of all the people in the village, and then there's a development committee of 12 people, where youth, women, persons with disability, people in retired people and so on are in that committee. And after that, there's another level we call clusters, about 10 villages together, 377. And then sub-ward 60, ward 30, sub-county 6, and at the county level. We also have management committees, project management committees, so that for every project, this management committee must approve what is happening. And you can't be paid, even as the technical people are approving, you can't be paid if that management committee doesn't. And after the management committee, when the project is ended, there's a sustainability committee. And these committees, they are charged with continuous, to make sure that there's continuous access to information to the beneficiaries, there's community-fed feedback, there is grievance redress, there's social safeguard adherence, ownership, sustainability, budget tracking, social accountability, and therefore equitable distribution of resources. So when we are making budgets, we start at the village, apart from the COVID period when that was not easy, and we go up until at the ward, we meet together. And when there was no COVID, we would meet about like 3,000 people. And then because there is a ward development committee, that ward development committee there's a ward development fund that the people would make a decision in the ward. And when they do that, of 33 million currently, nobody could change it, not even the assembly. Again, they would look at policies, they would look at bills, they would look at even employment, so that when we are employing certain people work within the communities, after the County Public Service Board has interviewed them, we go back to the people, and the people are able to say at the appropriate committee, people's committee, they're able to say what kind of character is this a person. And because of this system, people began to tell us what things they want for value addition, so that, you know, we have some, you know, factories in terms of a mango plant, a green, a pulses plant. We have universal health care, because they said for 500 shillings, which is about $5 per year, a household could access minimum health care from our facilities. They even suggested that in terms of making sure that there's less corruption, we have an open contracting system. Apart from the open government that we have, we are doing ISO now. We have invited the Anti-Corruption Authority to come and look at our systems. So there is therefore more openness. We believe that the county belongs to the people. There is no need to be afraid of them. We want to protect their resources, and therefore we ask them to be part of their government together. And we have seen, you know, a good progress, including saving of money, because these projects are being supervised by the people. There isn't as much wastage as usually happens. But there are challenges as I conclude. There is the challenge of uneven public participation in the country, because some places people are scared of public participation, this kind of new way of doing democracy. There isn't enough civic education because of funds. There is also resistance and sabotage, because even some of the officers who we work together are not persuaded that there should be that kind of openness. The national government system is different from these people's way of doing government, and therefore there usually clashes with the chiefs and our, you know, people's government, our county administration. But all in all, we think from our experience, this is something that can work very much to buttress democratic renewal on the continent, and to make sure that people get resources as is. Thank you very much.